So, Spartacus. You've probably heard of him. Gladiator. Slave rebellion. Russell Crowe vibes. But let me tell you something, the real story is so much wilder than any movie version. And I've broken it down into 10 things about Spartacus that are going to completely change how you see him. Because this guy, he wasn't just some lucky rebel. He was a military genius who defeated the most powerful empire on earth. Multiple times. With kitchen knives and sheer will. And when Rome finally took him down, they made absolutely certain the world would remember what happens when you challenge them. So forget everything Hollywood taught you. Let's talk about the real Spartacus. Here are 10 things you need to know. 1. He was a prisoner of war, not born a slave. Okay, so let's start with this. Spartacus wasn't some random slave who got lucky. He was Thracian, from what's now Bulgaria, and before Rome enslaved him, he was a warrior in his own army. Think about that for a second. This wasn't a person born into slavery. This was a trained soldier who fought against Rome, got captured, and was forced into chains as a prisoner of war. Rome did this constantly. They'd conquer entire nations, capture the best warriors, and turn them into gladiators. Entertainment. Make the conquered fight each other to the death for Roman crowds. So when people call Spartacus a slave rebellion leader, that's technically true. But it's more accurate to say he was a prisoner of war who escaped and fought back. And Rome made a huge mistake thinking they could control him. 2. He broke out with kitchen utensils and won. Okay, so here's something most people don't realize. In 73 BC, Spartacus and about 70 other gladiators were trapped in a training school in Capua. These are some of the most lethal fighters in the ancient world, trained killers, and they're locked up, heavily guarded. They plan their escape, but they don't have weapons. They're not allowed near real weapons. So what do they use? Kitchen knives, cooking utensils, anything they could grab from the kitchen. Now picture this, 70 gladiators with kitchen equipment versus armed Roman guards in full armor. And they won. They killed the guards, stole their actual weapons, and escaped into the Italian countryside. They made it to Mount Vesuvius, yes, that volcano, and set up camp. Rome sent a small force to capture them. Figured it'd be easy. A bunch of escaped slaves hiding on a mountain. Spartacus and his men killed them all. And that's when Rome realized, this wasn't just an escape. This was the beginning of a war. 3. His army exploded from 70 to 120,000 in months. Alright, so check this out. Spartacus started with 70 escaped gladiators. Within a few months, his army grew to over 120,000 people. Where did they all come from? Slaves. Every farm Spartacus passed, every estate, every villa, slaves heard what was happening and joined. Some were field workers, some were household servants, some were miners, some were other gladiators, and they didn't just trickle in. They flooded in by the thousands. Because here's what you have to understand, Rome's entire economy ran on slavery. There were millions of enslaved people in Italy. And Spartacus was offering them something Rome said was impossible. Freedom. So his rebellion wasn't just a small revolt. It became a mass uprising. An entire army of people who had nothing to lose and everything to fight for. And Rome started to panic. 4. He fought like a gladiator on a battlefield. So Rome sends armies to crush this rebellion. Professional legions, trained soldiers, the best military in the world. And Spartacus destroys them, multiple times. But here's the genius part, and this is what made him so dangerous. Spartacus used gladiator fighting tactics on a battlefield. Scale. See, gladiators are trained to fight in close quarters. One-on-one combat, psychological intimidation, unpredictability. They break the rules because there are no rules in the arena. Roman armies, on the other hand, are built on discipline. Formation, strategy. Everyone does exactly what they're trained to do. So what does Spartacus do? He takes that gladiator mentality, chaos, aggression, intimidation, and applies it to entire battles. His soldiers would charge screaming like maniacs. They'd break formation on purpose to create confusion. They'd feint retreats and then ambush. They fought like gladiators, wild, brutal, terrifying. And Roman commanders had absolutely no idea how to fight someone who refused to follow the rules of war. So Spartacus kept winning. 5. He had freedom in his hands, and turned back. Okay, this is the part that gets me every time. After defeating multiple Roman armies, Spartacus's massive force, now over 100,000 strong, marched north toward the Alps. The Alps, the northern border of Italy. If they crossed those mountains, they were free. Rome couldn't follow them. They could go home, back to Thrace, back to Gaul, back to wherever they came from. Freedom was right there, and they turned around. They marched south, back into Italy, deeper into Roman territory. Why? Historians still debate this. Some think Spartacus's men refused to leave. They wanted Rome itself. They wanted to burn the capital to the ground. Others think Spartacus wanted to free every slave in Italy. That leaving meant abandoning millions still in chains. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was revenge. Maybe it was something else entirely. But here's what I think. Spartacus knew. He knew how this would end. He knew Rome would never stop hunting them. But running meant Rome wins. Rome gets to say, slaves are cowards who flee. Fighting, losing even, that's different. That sends a message that lasts forever. And boy, did it send a message. 6. Rome sent their richest man, who terrified his own army. After Spartacus humiliated multiple generals, the Roman Senate did something desperate. They gave command to Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Maybe the richest man in history. And Crassus didn't just want to win. He wanted to destroy Spartacus so completely that no slave would ever rebel again. So he did something horrifying. He resurrected an ancient Roman punishment called decimation. Here's how it worked. If his own soldiers retreated or showed cowardice, Crassus would line them up, divide them into groups of 10, and force 9 of them to beat the 10th one to death. His own soldiers, killing each other. He was sending a message to his army, you should fear me more than you fear Spartacus. And it worked. Crassus's soldiers were more terrified of their own commander than they were of the enemy. So they fought with absolute desperation. And slowly, methodically, Crassus started closing the trap around Spartacus. 7. Pirates took his gold and left him to die. So Spartacus knows he's running out of options. Roman armies are closing in from every direction. He makes a deal with Cilician pirates to transport his army across the sea to Sicily. New battlefield, fresh start. He pays them, up front, a fortune in plundered Roman gold. And the pirates, they take the money and sail away without him. Just, gone. Some historians think Crassus bribed the pirates, offered them more money to abandon Spartacus. Others think the pirates just took the gold and ran. Why risk their lives transporting a slave army when you've already been paid? Either way, Spartacus was trapped. Stuck in southern Italy. No escape route. Roman armies surrounding him on all sides. The final battle was inevitable. 8. He died fighting, but his body vanished. In 71 BC, the final battle happened. Spartacus fought at the front. Roman historians recorded that he personally killed 2 centurions, high-ranking officers, before he was finally brought down. But here's the weird part. After the battle, when Crassus went looking for Spartacus's body, they couldn't find it. Crassus wanted to parade Spartacus's corpse through Rome. Proof that the rebellion was over. A trophy to cement his victory. But Spartacus's body was gone. Some historians think he was so mutilated in the battle, hacked apart by multiple soldiers, that he was unrecognizable among the thousands of dead. Others believe his followers secretly buried him to prevent Rome from desecrating his body. To this day, no one knows what happened to Spartacus's remains. He lived as a legend. And he died as one too. 9. Rome lined 130 miles with 6,000 crucified men. Okay, this next part is brutal. After the final battle, Crassus captured about 6,000 surviving rebels. And he crucified all of them. But not in one place. He lined them up along the Appian Way, the main road from Capua to Rome, for over 130 miles. One crucified man every few hundred feet. Do the math on that. 6,000 men. Stretched across 130 miles of road. Dying slowly. In public view. They hung there for months. Rotting. In full view of anyone traveling to Rome. You couldn't make that journey without walking past days of crucified men. Days. Rome's message was brutally clear. this is what happens when slaves rebel. And here's the thing that makes it even more horrific. Crucifixion was designed to be slow. You didn't die quickly. You suffocated over hours, sometimes days. Public torture is a deterrent. 6,000 men, suffering for days. As a warning. That's the kind of empire Spartacus was fighting. 10. He became a legend that lasted 2,000 years. Alright, final one. And honestly, this is the most important. Rome tried to erase Spartacus. They crucified thousands. They lost his body. They wanted him forgotten. But they failed. For 2,000 years, Spartacus has been a symbol of resistance. When Haitian slaves rebelled against France in the 1790s, they invoked his name. When the Bolsheviks overthrew the Russian Tsar, they named their revolutionary group the Spartacus League. During World War II, resistance fighters across Europe used his name as a rallying cry. Even today, right now, his name represents standing up against impossible odds. Rome killed Spartacus. They killed his army. They crucified 6,000 men as a warning. But they couldn't kill what he represented. And that's why his story still matters 2,000 years later. So those are 10 facts about Spartacus that completely change his story. He wasn't just a slave who got lucky. He was a prisoner of war who became a military genius. A man who brought Rome to its knees with kitchen knives and sheer will. He could have escaped. He chose to fight. He could have run. He chose to stand. And when Rome finally killed him, they made sure the world would never forget. But here's the irony. Rome wanted people to remember Spartacus as a warning. A cautionary tale about what happens when you rebel. Instead, he became a legend. A symbol. Proof that even the most powerful empire in the world can be challenged by people who have nothing left to lose. Spartacus died 2,000 years ago. But his story, that's still alive.